And Popples, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Fiction&Flora, you can call me Flora, and today we will be doing the mid-year freakout tag. So I know that this year a lot of creators, specifically the big ones, have been including questions concerning their video content. Unfortunately, since I've only posted like 5 videos and they've all been in the last month, I just don't have enough content for me to have an opinion on it. Hopefully I will continue on the way I am now with a semi-regular posting schedule so I can answer these questions next year. We will give ourselves hope. But either way, I'm gonna go ahead and continue with the book related questions, and we will just have a good time discussing my highs and my lows so far. And without any further delay, let's go ahead and hop into it. The first prompt is, what is the best book I've read so far? So I have 2 for this one. One you're not going to be too surprised about, and one that I don't think I've spoken about just yet. So the first one is going to be Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldreee, and the cover art is designed by Carson Lowmiller. This is a cozy fantasy that follows an orc ex-mercenary as she finds a new town and begins a coffee shop, one of the first in the region. And it's basically just about her creating this business as well as creating friendships and different relationships around town and finding her place there. I thought this was an amazing book. You've already heard me ramble and rave about how much I love this in my fantasy video. This is gorgeous, and it really showed me that I do still like fantasy. I just have to find fantasy that interests me. So this was amazing. I highly recommend it. I love that it is very character driven, that it's very cozy. So 10 out of 10. I think this would be a great book for you to read. The next one I have is How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu, and the jacket design is by Will Style, and the image is from Lauren Rinder off of Shutterstock. This book has a series of vignettes following different people throughout the beginning, middle, and ending of a pandemic that took a large amount of human lives, and how people during this surrounding this pandemic deal with the situation. Some are very sorrowful, some are very joyful, some are very hopeful. I really enjoyed this book. It was one of the first I read this year, and honestly it was a great start to the year. Love this book. I don't know if there's anything else I can say since it is vignettes and they all kind of interconnect with one another, which was great. But I do recommend this. I do understand, however, that there would be content / trigger warnings because this is dealing with a pandemic, and as we are still currently not in one and possibly a second at the same time, I do have to say be very cautious going into this. There are some situations that can be incredibly triggering, incredibly harmful if you are not in the right headspace. So I do love this book. However, I would encourage caution and understanding of your own mental health before picking it up. The next prompt is the best sequel I've read so far, and that is going to be Terminal Uprising by Jim C Hines. This is book 2 of the Janitors in the Post-Apocalypse series, and the cover art for this one is by Daniel Dos Santos, and the cover design is by G-Force Design. So this book is amazing. I thought this was a beautiful continuation of the story. I thought it was just as action-packed. I really enjoyed learning more about the world, about the politics, about the different people in this world. I enjoyed meeting more humans. I enjoyed meeting more aliens that are non-humanoid. This is a great follow-up to the first one, and it has made me so excited for the third one, which will be coming out in August, I do believe. It also introduced me to a new favorite character, so all right. And then the next prompt is new releases you haven't read yet but want to. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 for this one. The first is going to be All the Horses of Iceland by Sarah Tolmie. Just scoot over a little bit so you can see the cover, and I'll just give you the summary for it. All the Horses of Iceland tells the tale of a Norse trader, his travels through Central Asia, and the ghostly magic that followed him home to the land of fire, stone, and ice. His search for riches will take him from Helmgard through Khazaria to the steppes of Mongolia, where he will barter for horses and return with much more. The story is supposed to be pretty like mystical. The prose is supposed to be beautiful, and the cover is gorgeous. So you guys know me, I am a cover buyer. I'm very excited about this book. It has been on my mind for months, so cannot wait till I get a chance to read it. The next is going to be Real Hero Shit by Kendra Wells. And this one says, people are going missing in a small mountain town. The city guard are blocked from a real investigation. The notorious Underguild has assigned Michael a secret mission. Find the missing villagers and bring whatever kidnapped them to justice. Unfortunately for Michael and his fellow adventurers, Annie and Hokus, they're short a fighter and need one more party member to foil this plot. Even more unfortunately, the only volunteer seems to be the arrogant, ostentatious, purple playboy prince Eugene, looking to cure his boredom. Covert is not a concept that he's familiar with, and let's just say his commitment to the mission is questionable. Every day is basically spring break for Eugene, but outside the palace walls he crashes into a hard reality. The system that kept him safe in his silk-sheeted bed isn't particularly concerned with the well-being of anyone who isn't him. Eugene will have to level up his awareness if he means to be a real hero, and time is running short. So I looked at like the first few sentences of a few different reviews, and it seems like it is one that is a little bit like your adventure-y D&D version of like a comic / graphic novel. So I'm excited about this. I'm learning what I like in fantasy, and this seems to be in the right vein. Hi Riley. So I am very excited to pick it up. The next one is going to be Just Right. Jillian, are you gonna stand there? What are you doing? The next book is going to be Just Right, Jillian by Nicole D. Collier, and the summary is as follows. 5th grader Jillian will do just about anything to blend in, including staying quiet even when she has the right answer. After she loses a classroom competition because she won't speak up, she sets her mind on winning her school's biggest competition. But breaking out of her shell is easier said than done, and Jillian has only a month to keep her promise to her grandmother and prove to herself that she can speak up and show everyone her true self. I love a middle grade. This cover is gorgeous, and I also just love when people are finding their inner voice. When it comes to like coming of age / growing up, I am very much enjoy the introspective part of it, not necessarily the interactions everybody else. And I was someone who was incredibly nervous about speaking up. I am still to a certain degree, and so I am just very excited to read about Jillian's transition into 5th grade and her growth as a young person. The next one is one that I'm very excited about because I found that I am actually really hyped for a bunch of anthologies this year. So theoretically, the second half of this year is going to be a lot of anthologies for me, which I am more than happy about, because I feel like I haven't really had a bad experience. I've had one, but that was more of a series of short stories from the same author, but I've never really had a bad experience with a collection of short stories from multiple authors. So that's something that I'm really excited about. They are almost guaranteed to get nothing less than a 3.5 because I'm guaranteed to get at least one 5-star story out of every anthology, you know? But anyway, the one I'm speaking of for this particular prompt is The Way Spring Arrives and Other Stories, a collection of Chinese science fiction and fantasy from a visionary team of female and non-binary creators, edited by Chen and Regina, Kanyu, Wang. In The Spring Arrives and Other Stories, you can dine at a restaurant at the end of the universe, cultivate to immortality in the high mountains, watch roses perform Shakespeare, or arrive at the island of the gods on the backs of giant fish to ensure that the world can bloom. Did that not intrigue you? I want to read each and every one of them stories. I want to watch Rose perform Shakespeare. I'm so excited. Like, it just seems like it's gonna be a good time. Also, because of a book I read previously, I have come to the conclusion that I might just be, like, much like I like Japanese literary fiction, I think I might be really into Chinese science fiction. Granted, I've only read one anthology, but it was a pretty great one. So I honestly think this can only be good. I'm expecting at least a 4. The next prompt is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I have quite a few releases that I've been wanting for the rest of the year, so I decided to just select like 5 of them. So yes, you are going to sit through more summaries of books, but they're probably worth it. The first one is going to be Leech by Hiron, Ennes, and it is set to come out September 27th. And the summary is as follows. In an isolated chateau as far north as north goes, the Baron's doctor has died. The doctor's replacement has a mystery to solve, discovering how the Institute lost track of one of its many bodies. For hundreds of years, the Interprovincial Medical Institute has grown by taking root in young minds and shaping them into doctors, replacing every human practitioner of medicine. The Institute is here to help humanity to cure and to cut, to cradle and protect the species from the apocalyptic horrors their ancestors unleashed. In the frozen north, the Institute's body will discover a competitor for its rung at the top of the evolutionary ladder. A parasite is spreading through the Baron's castle, already a dark pit of secrets, lies, violence, and fear. The two will make war on the battlefield of the body. Whichever wins, humanity will lose again. Is that not intriguing, y'all? Like, this book is, from what I checked, I think it's like 600 pages, which I seem to just be interested in big books this year, even though I'm a slow reader. Either way, very excited. That just sounds intriguing. I'm very excited to read this book. I think it's going to be very spooky. I think it's going to give me nightmares, which I'm fine with. I think it is also going to be a great way to bring in spooky season. October is one of my favorite months, so I'm ready for it. The next one is going to be Our Shadows Have Claws, 15 Latin American monster stories that is edited by Yamile Saied Mendez, and it is also set to be released on September 6th. From zombies to cannibals to death incarnate, this cross-genre anthology offers something for every monster lover. In Our Shadows Have Claws, bloodthirsty vampires are hunted by quick-witted slayers. Children are stolen from their beds by El Viejo de la Bosa, while a military dictatorship steals their parents, and anyone you love, absolutely anyone, might be a shapeshifter waiting to hunt. The worlds of these stories are dark but also magical ones, where a ghost witch can make your cheating boyfriend pay. Bullies are brought to their knees by vicious wolf gods. A jar of fireflies can protect you from the reality warping magic of a bruja, and maybe you'll even live long enough to tell the tale. Set across Latin America and its diaspora, this collection offers bold, imaginative stories of oppression, grief, sisterhood, first love, and empowerment. It's got me. I'm set. I'm ready. It sounds like it's probably going to make me cry, but I am intrigued, and it does sound like something that's going to make me tear up. I'm gonna ugly cry. I'm probably gonna need to read it on weekends, but it sounds amazing. The next one is going to be The Gathering Dark, an anthology. The next one is The Gathering Dark, an anthology of folk horror by Tori Bovalino. This is also set to release on September 6th. September 6th is a great release day, apparently. The summary is: a cemetery full of the restless dead. A town so wicked it has already burned twice, with the breath of the third fire looming. A rural, isolated bridge with a terrifying monster waiting for the completion of its summoning ritual. A lake that allows the drowned to return, though they have been changed by the claws of death. These are the shadowed, liminal spaces where the curses and monsters lurk, refusing to be forgotten. I don't think I've ever read a folk horror, and if I have, I didn't know. So I'm very excited about this anthology. Once again, it feels like the second half of the year is going to be my anthology time, because I have a few that I'm just excited to read in general. This seems like it's going to be another great addition to the second half of the year. About that, I got a call from my grandmother. Where were we? I do believe I had just told you about The Gathering Dark. So next on my list of anticipated for the rest of the year is Empty Smiles by Catherine Arden, which comes out on August 9th. This is going to be the 4th in the Small Spaces series, and I am incredibly excited for it. I've been following this series since I found out about it. I enjoyed every single one thus far. I think it is one of my favorite examples of middle grade horror in a while. This series follows 3 friends as they encounter and defeat an entity known only as the Smiling Man, and he throws all kinds of things at them: scarecrows, ghosts. I think the last time was like a river monster. And each and every time it's a whole new attack, and it's always nice and creepy. This next one deals with clowns, as you can tell by the cover, and I don't know about you, but there is a healthy respect and fear of clowns. I think it has something to do with the fact that their faces are painted in permanent smiles. Very creepy. Anyway, I truly enjoyed the series. Next book on this list is going to be Acting the Part by Z.R. Eller, and this comes out December 6th. And the summary is as follows. Queer actor Lily Ashton has found fame playing lesbian warrior Morgantha on the hit TV show Galaxy Spark. Lily knows how little representation queer girls have, so when the showrunners reveal that Morgantha's on-screen love interest, Alietta, is going to be killed off, Lily orchestrates an elaborate fake dating scheme with standoffish actress who plays her to generate press and ensure a happy ending for the hashtag Morganetta ship. While playing a doting girlfriend on and off screen, Lily struggles with whether a word like girl applies to them at all. Lily's always been good at playing a part, but are they ready to share their real self, even if it means throwing everything they fought for away? This one I'm very excited because I love queer rep, I love non-binary rep, I love sapphic rep. It's all just, this is a great coming of age coming out / romantic comedy, maybe. I don't know, there's fake dating in it. It is one of the few young adult books that I'm actually excited to read. As far as I know, it's young adult. Who knows, it might have been mislabeled, because you know they love to do that. But as far as I know, it's young adult, and I'm very excited for it. Also, look at this gorgeous cover. I cannot wait to find out who has done the artwork for it. Cannot wait to have it on my shelves. It's beautiful. Last but not least on this list is going to be A History of Fear by Luc Dumas, and it also comes out on December 6th. This one follows, the summary is as follows. It was in Scotland. Grayson Hale, the most infamous murderer in Scotland, is better known by a different name, the Devil's Advocate. The 25-year-old American grad student rose to instant notoriety when he confessed to the slaughter of his classmate Liam Stewart, claiming the devil made him do it. When Hale is found hanged in his prison cell, officers uncover a handwritten manuscript that promises to answer the question that's haunted the nation for years. Was Hale a lunatic, or had he been telling the truth all along? Unnervingly, Hale doesn't fit the bill of a killer. The first-person narrative that centers this novel reveals an acerbic young atheist newly enrolled at the University of Edinburgh to carry on the legacy of his recently deceased father. In need of cash, he takes a job ghostwriting a mysterious book for a dark stranger, but has misgivings when the project begins to reawaken his Satanophobia, a rare condition that causes him to live in terror that the devil is after him. As he struggles to disentangle fact from fear, Grayson's world is turned upside down after events force him to confront his growing suspicion that he's working for the one he has feared all this time, and that the book is only the beginning of their partnership. Need I say more? It sounds terrifying. I'm excited. I'm into it. I love a slow possession, but I also like the intrigue of whether or not this is someone who is just slowly just losing their grasp on reality versus actual supernatural entity. I do have a problem with how a lot of things will demonize mental health issues. However, I am interested to see on how they handle this, especially when I think especially when you have another series. This was a movie series, The Conjuring, when they had the devil maybe do it. So this seems to be in a similar vein and that one was following the real life case of, that one was a take on the, that was an adaptation of the real life case of the very first murder trial that invoked the devil and possession as a reason for their actions. So I am interested to see how they handle it, especially how they handle mental health versus possession, versus how much agency is involved in both of those. Very interested. I'm excited for this book. We are finally on to our next prompt, and that is my biggest disappointment. No one is going to be surprised, but I have two. So the first of which, once again, no one's going to be surprised. It is Horror Hotel by Victoria Fulton and Faith McLaren. The artwork is by David Seidman and the cover design is by Casey Moses. This is a gorgeous cover. The premise is pretty good. The story was so disappointing. This was one of my most anticipated for the first half of the year, and it hurts. So this is what I was expecting to be a very schlocky horror. It is following a group of YouTubers as they go to a fictional version of the Cecil Hotel to do a ghost investigation, and then people start dying and they are trying to figure out how and why and when and all the good juicy stuff. And so it very much reminded me of several different found footage movies that also had to deal with the Cecil Hotel, as well as a few different other ones. And I was expecting ghosts, I was expecting hauntings, maybe an evil proprietor, I don't know. I was expecting the teens, because this is a YA book, so I was expecting the teens to make iffy choices, but like iffy choices that, you know, you would expect in a horror movie. But this book was very disappointing. And not only that, it was, I'm no longer a teen, but it was damn near insulting to read, because it was like, teens don't make sense. Anyway, I was not very pleased with this. It was in turns amazing, because sometimes the writing was like, sometimes, especially when they were describing the hotel, it was so good, and other times it was worse than some of the bad fan fiction I used to read when I was younger. I've moved on to better fan fiction these days, but this is not good. No. Would I recommend it? Of course not. The next book that I was disappointed in is another horror, another haunted house book. What is it with the haunted house books that ruined it for me? And that is 12 Nights at Rotter House by J.W. Oker, which apparently was like a winner for the Edgar Award. I don't know what the Edgar Award is, but it won. And the cover design / art is done by, the cover design is by M.S. Corley, and the book design is by Tim Houts. So this cover is what got me. I'm not gonna lie, I went to Barnes & Noble, I saw this cover, I decided I needed to read it. I was highly disappointed. So this book follows a guy, just follows a guy who is into the supernatural, and he has convinced his friend to stay 12 nights in this supposedly haunted house with him, because it has been said that no one survives a full 12 nights. So he's determined to be the person who does it. So they stay at this house, and as you can expect from a haunted house book, things start going batshit crazy. It's the disappointment I had once I got to the end of this book. It felt like such a waste of my time, but I gave it 3 stars. Like the ride was fine, but the ending ruined everything. Our next prompt is my biggest surprise, and that is going to be Road of Bones by Christopher Golden. The cover is by Jonathan Bush, and the artwork is taken from Getty Images. So this book follows a producer, I think it is, host, who goes with his cameraman to the Road of Bones, which is a road in Siberia where a lot of people died in the gulags during occupation, and he wants to do a documentary about life along the Road of Bones. So basically the people who live in the coldest place on earth, who live along this road, and just how they do live, their culture, their relationships, their way of life. But as they're doing this, they encounter the spirits and the guardians of this wilderness, and they have to survive that. I thought this was great, but it was a big surprise to me because when I first read it, I got through the first quarter of it, put it down, and I almost DNF'd. I was just like, I don't see this being good. It's gonna be a 2-star, blah, blah, blah. It fixed itself. It was great. I love this book so much. It really brought itself together, because that first quarter there, I started this beginning of the year and I didn't finish it until June. That tells you I did not think this was gonna go well, and I'm so glad I was wrong. It was so nice. I was so surprised, but in such a beautiful and happy way. It made my heart pound once it got going. It really went. Oh, great book. Definitely recommend it. Also, look at that. It made a skull out of the bones. I'm a cover buyer. What can I say? The next question is newest fictional crush. I don't have one, so moving on. The next one is my newest favorite character, and that is going to be Advocate of Violence from Terminal Uprising. And Advocate of Violence is a new character that we're introduced to. He's introduced at the beginning of the story, so it's not a spoiler. But he is from a warfaring civilization that kind of, like when they describe it, kind of reminds me of like giant bipedal wasps. So feel how you would feel about that one. But he's from a warfaring civilization where what they do, it's in their genes, they are antagonistic. They want to fight everybody. They want to fight each other sometimes. They are angry. And so you meet Advocate of Violence, but he's like, I don't fight physically. I could, but I don't in general. No, he fights in the courtroom. He's a lawyer, and he's great. He's an intergalactic wasp lawyer. He's great, and he just, I feel like everyone has that character in every series where you have the one who's just antagonistic towards everyone while still doing the right thing. It's like, I hate you, meatbags, but also, yeah, I saved you this time. It's great. I love Advocate of Violence. I really wanted to change that to my name to Advocate of Violence on Twitter, except, you know, someone would take it seriously and then I'd be getting reported all over the place. So instead, I didn't, but Advocate of Violence is great. I highly recommend you read this series so you can meet my favorite baby. I love him. And then the next prompt is books that made me cry. So I've got two for this one as well. The first one is going to be How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. This book had me crying over a pig. So that's all I've got for you. Like, tears, ugly crying in the front office of my job. Just a mess, an actual mess. But it was such a good time. Such a good time. I recommend this one. And then one that I haven't told you about yet is Brown Girls by Daphne Palasi Andreadas. And this one is an ode to brown girls. It is an ode to brown girls, and it was gorgeous. I listened to the audiobook. Shout out to the Denver Public Library. Woot woot. I listened to the audiobook, and I put it on, I laid down in my bed, and I just listened to those words. It is written in verse. It is just an experience. I highly recommend it if you ever just like take a walk to the park or something. I love this book, and it made me cry from both joy and recognition, but also pain. It's just, yes, Brown Girls. Good book. The next prompt is most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. Okay, I have a few. The first we're gonna go with is Operation Sisterhood by Start with Operation Sisterhood by Olugbemisola Rude Herkovich. And this is gorgeous. Look how soft everything is. Look how everything is, the composition is gorgeous. And the artist for this, the art is by Brittany Bond, and the design is by Katrina Damkohler and Ellen Cohen. And they did that. They did an amazing job. 110% love this. This book makes me just want to go outside. Honestly, it makes me remember summer days with my cousins and us being outside and just Operation Sisterhood. Also, it's an amazing book. I'm like, this cover art goes great with the book. I did read the audiobook. Again, shout out to the Denver Public Library for holding it down. Great book. Another book that has gorgeous art is going to be The Horror Hotel, which expected. I've ranted and raved about how much I love this cover. Horror Hotel was great. How We Go in the Dark, also amazing. And then one that I do not own is going to be Lesser Known Monsters of the 21st Century by Kim Fu, which is an anthology. And it was one that I gave a solid 3 stars. Again, there were some 5 stars, there was like 1 stars. It was a great anthology. I had a good time. There were a few stories that just felt incomplete, but that's expected in a short story collection. But have you seen this cover? Do you see these shapes? Do you see the color selections? Great design here. I don't know who the cover artist is because I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I don't know how to search for cover artists on the internet. Unfortunately, I'm broken that way. If anyone does know, please let me know and I'll put it in the description box below, but here we are. It's worth your time. And then we're on to our final prompt, because this video is getting quite long, though that's a little expected of me, isn't it? What books do you need to read by the end of the year? I've got a few. They're all physical because I've been placing an emphasis on my physical TBR. And so without further ado, let's get into it. The first is going to be Ava Evergreen and the Cursed Witch by Julie Abe. This is the sequel to Ava Evergreen, the semi-magical witch that I loved. It made me cry. I read it in a single morning. Also, look how gorgeous this cover is. Look at those colors. Yes, 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 yes. The jacket art is by Shan Jung and the jacket design is by Karina Grada. I don't know what this book is about. I'm sure I've read the back before, but I know that it's the sequel to a book I loved and I'm hoping it's great. I want to read this book. The next one is going to be Death Sentences by Kawamata Chiaki. Yes, I said I was gonna read it last year. No, I didn't read it. Get off me, all right? I am currently 29 pages into it and it's only about 200 some change pages. So in theory, I should be able to read it in like a week. But will I? That's the ultimate question. But I do want to finish it by the end of the year. The cover design is by Michael Rana and the cover images are from iStockPhoto.com. The next book is White Tears, Brown Scars, How White Feminism Betrays Women of Color by Rumi Hamad. And this cover design and illustration is by Na Kim from Catapult Co. And I want to read this because I love intersectionality. Wow. I love intersectionality. And I like nonfiction. I don't know what else to tell you. This book is on my list. I was planning to read it last year, but I had given it to a friend to read and then she ended up moving, so it took us a little bit of time to get it back to me. Either way, very excited to pick it up. It's a little chunky. I think there is an audiobook too, so I might pick that up in addition. The next one I want to read is The Child Thief by Brahm. I want to read this because it sounds intriguing. It is a Peter Pan retelling, a dark Peter Pan retelling, I hear. And people say that Brahm is amazing. Also, I love the illustrations in these books, so I'm not gonna lie, that is what intrigued me when I was at the bookstore and picked them up. I love a good image. I wish more books had pictures. Speaking of pictures, this cover was designed and illustrated by Brahm. Oh wow, the author did the art. I feel like I should have known that. But yeah, this is a dark Peter Pan retelling. I have started it once when I first picked it up, but then I moved and I only made it like 4 pages, so it's not really started, but I do want to finish this. In fact, I want to read all of the Brahm books, but let's just start with this one. Yeah. Also, I like the shape of this book. Like, it's a nice shape, yeah. Last but not least, because I do love to torture myself, I would like to read House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. I would like to read House of Leaves, okay? I am intimidated by House of Leaves. I've had people tell me it's great. I've had people tell me it's shit. I want to know what this book is about. I want to know. So I'm gonna read it. I have 6 months. I have to finish Crime and Punishment, but then I'm picking up this book and I want to know what it's about. I demand to know. So all I know is that there's a house that with impossible dimensions. It's bigger on the inside, like a TARDIS, and it's horror, and people either say it's a horrible book that they hate and I shouldn't bother with it, and other people say it's great and that it's terrifying. So I am determined to find out. I will be a part of the initiated into this book. And that is my mid-year freakout. We had some pauses, but I hope you had a good time with me. I'm very excited to explore these books. I'm very excited to hear about your mid-year freakouts. That's all I got. That is it for this week. I will see you in the next video. If you would like to hang out with me anywhere other than here, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, Readerly, and Storygraph. Thank you so much for visiting. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.